You just keep doing your thing.
Live streaming is on.
It seems to be working now. Let me check YouTube to see. Yes, it seems we're there. Let me send a message to people. Perdón, estaban todos los canales ocupados. I'm sorry, everybody. We were trying, but it seems every single streamer channel, whatever in the world, was busy. Everybody was trying, so we have to try like 15 times, 2 different browsers, etc., etc. But we seem to be on now. Let me check YouTube to see if you are there. Yes, I see you. Hello, everybody. And hello, Mr. Wolfman.
Hello there, Mr. Macho.
Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry it has been like that, but as you know, everybody in the world is trying to do this same thing at the same time.
All new technology. If we're going to have an apocalypse, we're in touch with everybody. This has never happened before in terms of communication. This is incredible. I'm speaking halfway around the world, and it's just like it was in the other room. So little problems, not hard to deal with.
Yes, that's true. And I was talking to Howard and Carlos Pacheco the other day, and we were all saying the same thing. We expected the apocalypse to be something bigger, like blood on the streets, zombies, something like that. We're having an apocalypse, but it's just boring.
We're watching the apocalypse on giant screen TVs. That was never written in any science fiction book ever.
That's absolutely true. I haven't thought about it. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody predicted this. Nobody predicted we'd be watching the entire thing on TV and that we would know everything that's happening around the world as it's happening.
Mm-hmm. And where do you think we're going? As a society, as a world, do you think, of course, we're surviving the apocalypse because we're human and we are built to survive. But I hope it doesn't mean, inject bleach or any other kind of shit.
No. There's only one person who believes you can inject yourself with anything and make it better at this particular point, like with. Well,
I hope it's just one.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys get it over there, but there's a wonderful singer, actor, comedian, Randy Rainbow, who just did a wonderful video on just a spoonful of Clorox.
Mm-hmm.
Great bit, yeah. If you can find it.
Yes, I will definitely try. So, how are you doing? First of all, how are you and Noel and the family doing?
I'm doing fine. My wife and I, are pretty much stocked up for a little bit at least. If it goes on 10, 12 years, I don't know. But in the meantime, we seem to have enough stuff for the present, and I'm trying to do work. It's a little slower than I'm used to in terms of getting stuff done, but I am working on work for DC and other places.
And I have a very important question for you. Are you baking bread?
Excuse me?
Are you baking bread?
I intend to. The only problem is that the flour is sold out everywhere.
Yes, that's exactly the same. The sign of a pandemic, when they tell you the sign of a pandemic can be zombies, whatever thing you can think about because of science fiction and movies and TV, what could you have never thought, and I would have never thought, is that every supermarket all over the world, because it's not only there, it's sold out on flour because everybody has gone crazy. Everybody's baking bread. It's like sign of the apocalypse. Next novel is people baking bread.
Well, the weird thing of it is that we can still buy bread. We don't have to make it.
Yes.
We can order bread. It'll be delivered to us that day. There's no problem there. I want to make bread because, frankly, the bread I make is better. But we put in for 10 pounds of flour, and we got 2. That's not enough to do what I need.
Yeah.
So I will as soon as we can get a little bit more bread or a little bit more flour.
I have to recognize that I'm not. We do bread here, but I use a machine. I'm not yet. I don't do the whole process with the dough. I'm sorry. I don't. I don't have
I
time, so
like
I
it.
buy a machine.
I
a
really
Mullinex
like to
machine,
get in there.
and then you pour on the ingredients. You follow the recipe, put it there. 3 hours, you have the bread.
Yeah, I used to have a machine, but I found that doing the kneading myself was actually very therapeutic. So I prefer doing it that way. I was making some breads a couple months ago before this all began, just to get back into doing it. So that's why we have no flour, because I had already made and I just didn't replace it.
Okay, but hey, you're better man than me. You take the time to to do it. I just throw it in the machine and make it work. So I know people has. Let me see. Everybody's saying hola, 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 everybody, hola, Andres, hola, Tony, hola de todo un Paco, hola, hello, Mr. Mike Perkins, hola, Fernando Galvez.
Mike Perkins is there?
I'm seeing them on the on YouTube because they're seeing the streaming and they're saying hello. You're not making questions. Don't blame me just later if I haven't asked any of your questions to Marv. So if you don't ask, not my problem. So if you want to ask him questions, that's your chance. But in the meantime, let's go. To the things we like to do. What are you doing these days? Mostly movies, TV, reading books, aside of work. I mean, what are you into now?
A lot of movies, some very old ones from the 30s and some more modern ones as well. TV, yeah, of course. I think I'm going crazy from the TV, but yeah, TV. Books, it's interesting. I find it's harder for me to concentrate, so I'm not reading quite as many books. Also, I'm trying to write because I have some assignments, and unfortunately, it's coming very slowly. So I got to force myself to finish one of the stories today because I have to start another one tomorrow. It's trying to keep busy, trying at the same time to relax. There's nothing I can do about this.
Yeah.
I can buy whatever I need to, for the most part, to stay alive. I could buy food, I could buy drinks, I could buy whatever I need for the most part. And hopefully that will continue. But if there's a second round of this stuff, I have no idea what it's going to be like. What do you guys feel?
I hope it doesn't happen. I hope, well, depends on the government, I guess. In your case, you're unlucky, I would say, because of the other guy in charge. But I guess I think you're lucky because of the governor you have. So, in a way, I hope it all compensates each other. But the second part of this would be much work. I agree with you. But I hope it doesn't happen because, everybody's taking it really slowly, like being really extra careful about what they're doing. So let's hope we don't have a second, because I agree with you. If there's a second, part of this virus, I don't even want to think about it.
My big concern is that the supply train doesn't stop. Right now, supermarkets are getting full, everything they are ordering. Their supermarkets are stocked. But next time, if this picks up again worse in which is what they're predicting will intersect with the flu season coming in at the same time, I don't know how many people are going to be able to continue working or at the supermarkets or delivery or any of that stuff. We can just keep our fingers crossed and try to stay healthy. We're staying inside. I see no reason to go to the beach. We have videos from Newport Beach, which isn't that far away. Very wealthy area, incredibly wealthy area. We have videos from Newport Beach, which isn't that far away. Very wealthy area, incredibly wealthy area is Newport Beach, and people are not paying attention. They're just crowding the beaches, and maybe they're 6 feet apart. I don't know. Personally, as I've been saying, I don't believe in 6 feet. I believe in 6 zip codes. We need to be a lot further because somebody just picked that number that the coronavirus will fall to the ground at that time. The little particles will fall to the ground and we'll be fine. But we don't know that for sure. Nobody knows anything for sure. So you should be really, I think, a little further apart than that.
I agree with you because they've been saying lately about, just the regular kind of particles that are like, 6 feet apart. We would say 1.5 meters, 2 meters in the rest of the world. But there's other particles that stay there longer.
Yeah,
So if you are like 2 feet apart, 6 feet apart, in like if they are still there and you walk by in like 5 minutes, if those particles are still there, I don't think that's going to happen because we don't know. But
here's my 6 foot. Here's me. I cough and it's going. It reaches 6 foot. Goes. I can't go any further. I'm not allowed to. Boom. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't go. Some of them's going to go. Whoop. They're going to find ways. They're going to find ways. They're going to stick around a little bit longer. They're going to fall on something. So protect yourself.
Yeah.
It could happen anyway, but protect yourself. Don't go to the beach with 40,000 other people. That's just going to bring back the cycle. We've lowered the curve. We've lowered that quite a bit. And New York reported today that they have, for the first time, far fewer people coming down with it than they had previously.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on a down cycle. This is not the time to, create more clay ducks to shoot. That's all that's going to happen. So people should just take care of themselves and be around. Otherwise, they won't be around.
Yeah. So let's go back. Let's leave this behind. We were saying, so what's the last movies and TV shows you've watched?
Well, the last TV show I saw was The Good Fight, which I love. But I've loved them since The Good Wife. I love Evil. What a wacky show, and it's them, same people. And The Good Fight is just wonderfully written. I'll watch anything they do, including that weird show about ants moving into your head or something that was on for a few weeks about a year or two ago. So that movies. Strangely, we're big fans of Galaxy Quest. I think everybody is. I had not known there was a documentary on the making of it that was put together with all the actors and all the people behind the scenes. It's a great documentary. It's one of the best I've seen. But we've been watching things like Sullivan's Travels and His Girl Friday, a lot of 1930s, because they're just happy.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch a lot of downer movies right now. I can't.
No, it's like people watching, Contagion these days.
Yeah. And
like, what the hell are you doing? We don't have enough, and you're watching, parasite, virus, bacteria, contagion movies.
Yeah, I find it hard to even have watched The Walking Dead, which I love. I think it's a great show, but it's too close to what's going on outside. I'm glad they're on hiatus right now. Things will be better in a couple months when they come back. So I've been watching those type of things. Anything to just sort of enjoy. See, I'm noticing that there's a lot of stuff coming onto Netflix now and Prime that sound really good. So stuff I haven't seen. We'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff on Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV Plus has like a new show every week or every 2 weeks. So I don't have time to watch it all. So believe me, even with this. But I watch also, Disney Plus opened in Spain. Well, in some places in Europe, I think, like 3-4 weeks ago. So and it's been fun, revisiting the old Disney movies, the old family happy movies.
Right.
You find a lot of stuff there, and which is fun. As you said, it's happy. It's like, oh, I haven't watched this since I was a kid. In most cases, it's like reliving an old thing. You watch it as if you were that kid again because you don't want to think about it. Like, okay, if I watch it as an adult, I'm probably going to say, oh my God, this is bad. But there's some cases, for example, I had a really good memories of The Black Hole.
Which one?
The Black Hole.
Oh yeah.
I watched it like 2 weeks ago. I couldn't even finish it. It was like, oh my God. this is so bad. You know.
What the shame of the black hole is, I knew some guys up at Disney at the time and who were doing the storyboards. They had a much better story, all of which was dropped. They really had a good story with a lot of imagination. None of it made it to the actual movie.
Yeah.
What a shame. It could have been decent.
Yeah, that's one of the parts of the movie that I hated the most, is that you're watching it, at least in my case, and there's a lot of concepts that I loved, but they are not on screen. That's exactly what you said. There's like, oh, there was something that it's like John Barry. You see the music, and it's like, oh my God, I love this music. But then you're thinking, but it doesn't fit the movie at all.
No.
It's like they talking, this is the movie you're gonna get, or the editing he saw was that, and then what they was on the movie, like, okay, this is not the movie the guy did the music for.
There was a couple movies that almost were good at that particular time at Disney. The Black Cauldron was another one. But, you know, they got better.
And
they were doing really badly, and then suddenly with, I guess, The Little Mermaid, everything turned around with them.
Yeah, that's the Eisner era. You know, I am reading the Bob Iger biography, and contrary to what most people think, I would say a big chunk of the book is singing Michael Eisner's praises. You know, when everybody doesn't want to think about how good and big Michael Eisner was for Disney, Bob Iger says, look, I was on ABC then, you know, when Disney bought us, and I know the whole story. And Disney was in the crapster, completely in the crapster, until Michael Eisner made really bold decisions in terms of animation and in terms of where the company had to go. He literally saved the company.
Oh, he and Jeffrey Katzenberg worked
absolutely.
I think it totally turned that place around, and they did a wonderful job. I was at Disney at that time. I was the editor of Disney Adventures magazine, and so got to see a lot of that happening first. So that was pretty remarkable how it started to change. I remember all of us going to see the first showing ever, just to the employees of Nightmare Before Christmas, and what a risk that was. That is not anything that Disney would have done, and nobody knew how to deal with it, and everybody saw it and totally fell in love with it at the screening.
I think that was what has saved Disney. And by the way, I remember you were at Disney that time. That's why I brought it up. But I think that every time that somebody has said Disney doesn't have to change, we're going to be Disney, let's not change anything, that's when Disney has been about to die. But when somebody has taken the risk of saying we need to change, or we need to be changed by somebody else, that's when Disney has thrived. And you know, that's the same thing he mentions about Pixar. You know, Eisner hated Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs hated Eisner. Bob Iger was close with Jobs, and people at the board were telling Iger, we cannot, you know, purchase or, you know, melt, whatever you want to call it, with Pixar, because that's going to change Disney. And what Iger answered back was, we need to change. If we don't change, as we did with Michael, you know, and the Mermaid, and what we did, what you guys did back in the day, there's not going to be a Disney in 5 years. Somebody's going to buy us. So to survive, we need to, you know, absorb that company and absorb their culture, so it changes us.
Well, they're like the biggest company right now because they have every major license, I think. You know, it's interesting because there's still the rumors that go around. I don't think it'll happen, but that Apple can buy it because Apple's probably the only company that could afford to buy Disney.
But that's rumors come back from that era with Steve Jobs. It's very clear, and again, I'm sorry I'm repeating a lot about this book, but when Disney bought Pixar, or according to other people, you know, when there was a fusion between the companies, etc., Steve Jobs' plan was very clear. Steve Jobs' plan was, in 5 years, Apple is going to absorb Disney. That was then. And Bob Iger says that on the book. It's like, I knew that was Steve's plan, But today's Apple, yes, they could. They're the biggest company in the world, only company in the world that could purchase Disney, yes. But I don't think Apple is interested at all. That Apple, maybe this Apple who has their own streaming service, their own video game service, their own music service, etc., who has covered all the services part, why would they be interested in buying Disney?
Well, remember, Steve Jobs was the biggest stockholder in Disney because of Pixar, and with Marvel being the second, Carl Icahn being the second.
Ike Perlmutter.
Ike Perlmutter being the second largest. So it could happen. I don't know. I hope it doesn't, because I want to see more places out there providing different type of content than one or two, because that also makes it impossible for the creators to have any power. If they own everything, there's no place to turn to.
Absolutely, and I think that Lorene Jobs, his widow is still number one stockholder individual, because the Fox thing, it didn't go all to Rupert Murdoch. He shared it among his own family. So if we count, as a family, probably the Murdochs are the biggest stockholders. Like a family, not as companies, of course. But in terms of individual ones, I think she is still number one. But anyway, let's change the subject. Let me see if we have any questions. But the questions, I'm not forgetting about the questions. Don't worry, guys. We'll do it, but we'll do it later.
David, is there anybody actually online?
Yeah, no. We have a lot of people, and we have questions. Let me see. I was going to save them for later, and I was going to ask you, but let me see. Let's go back. Is it true that you are the only guy who has been both editor-in-chief at Marvel and at DC?
No, I was never editor-in-chief at DC. I was senior editor.
Okay.
But yes, I was the editor of editor-in-chief of Marvel, and then came over to DC and became senior editor, or at least that's what I was told I was. It's always hard to say, because unless you get a physical job, it's whatever. But I was listed as a senior editor. It was fun. I love that sort of stuff. I wasn't sure. Not the editor-in-chief part, but being senior editor is much better for me, because I'm on the creative side, and I don't like the business side.
Yeah, you couldn't avoid that. Doesn't change anything.
With the business side too, but as long as I can stay on the editorial side, the creative side, I'm happy.
Yeah, and you came from Marvel to DC. I know what this is what people want us to talk about. You know how particularly fond I am of your work at Marvel. With Nova, Tomb of Dracula, and any of the others. But if you saw the ad I created for this meeting, that comic book, that cover is there for a reason. And I've told you in person, but people doesn't know this. The reason is that that's my favorite comic book ever in my life.
Okay.
Ever. That book showed me. I love New Teen Titans, of course, and new comic books back at that time. But that book showed me how much you can tell a superhero story without superheroics. That they have to really be about the people, about the characters. That was about Donna and about Dick and about what people thought. There were people in that era, as you know, and still now, that wanted Dick and Donna to become a couple. And it was never about that. It was about them being friends.
Yeah,
really, he could go about what he could do anything for her, because she was, like a sister, like her closest friend. And I love that story, and to this day it's still my favorite comic book ever because of that, because it was about the people.
It was an important story for us, but we would do it, we were starting to do that sort of stuff right in the beginning, because even in our 8th issue, which was A Day in the Life, there was no supervillains, there was no action, it was all character stuff. And I think people tend to forget that once a fan has read 3 or 4 comics, they've pretty much read every fight scene they're ever going to see because they're not that dissimilar. But the character stuff is what you remember. You don't, 5 years from now, you're not going to remember the fight because they're so similar. But you will remember the character bits. The fact that you brought up that particular story, that's a character-driven story. We care about people. We don't care about the action. The action's just for fun. That's added in on it. But we care about the people. So we care about Dick and Donna in that particular story, especially Donna. We care about Cyborg in the Day in the Life when he meets the little kids. We care about all of those because that's a people story and we can relate to that. We can't relate necessarily to people, casting bolts and all of, firing giant explosions or anything like that. So once I started to learn how to write, because I was already working before I learned how to do it, it was all about creating characters and making characters that people could get into, as opposed to coming up with the most brilliant plot ever done. And I try to always do that anyway, because I think plots are important, but it always centers to me on how does it affect the characters.
Yeah. And back in that time, the long run with George, maybe this is my point of view, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think that the 2 collaborators you've been had the most amazing synergy in your career, and you have a lot of art partners in this way. Do you agree it could be Gene and George, Gene Colan and George Perez?
I said I'm not sure what.
Who do you think that the artists, the artist partners you've had, the two that were closer in terms of the better synergy you had with them? And I was thinking that the 2 artists that you've always synchronized better for me were Gene Colan and George Perez. Could you agree with that?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, I've always said, started with Gene, his artwork is what helped me learn to write, because he drew such perfect people, and the people had real emotions. And because we were working Marvel style back then, even on Tomb of Dracula, I got to see the artwork and I got to see the expressions that he put on it, and it made it so much better for me to be able to write. And I had to write to his characters, so the way he drew. And so if it wasn't for Gene, I don't think I would have learned how to do that as well. I picked it up very quickly because his work was so beautiful. With George, it was like I was working with my brother. We could second guess everything. We completed each other's sentences. We never, in all the years we worked together, had a disagreement. We never had a fight. We never had any of that stuff. I think part of it was that both of us had successes before we came together. I on Tomb of Dracula and him on Avengers. So we got the ego gratification out of the way. We weren't in competition with each other. We just wanted to produce the book. And we've said it 100 times, like George wanted to do Justice League and I wanted to do Superman. And we thought Titans, we didn't think Titans would last, but we decided we wanted to do a book. We wanted to do a super book. And we were absolutely on the same wavelength. And lo and behold, it actually worked. Because if you go back in time, DC, no book at DC for several years had lasted longer than 6 issues. They were being canceled that fast.
Yeah.
So we expected that after the 6 issues, Titans would be canceled. I'd get Superman, he'd get Justice League. But we were still going to try and do the book. Since we knew it was going to be canceled, we were going to do the book that we really wanted to do. We may as well really enjoy the book. And fortunately, George and I were on the same wavelength. So it was great.
How did the idea for the Judas contract came about? How did you decide the idea for the Judas contract? How did you decided that Terra was going to be a villain since the moment you created her, or that happened? That flowed and something took you there.
Yeah, generally the way we worked, a lot of it, not all the time, but a lot of it was that we lived 5 blocks away from each other. So we get together at a diner and have lunch and start talking. And it could last 3, 4, 5 hours there. And I'd come in with a rough idea. I'd already have that in place. But then we have to start developing it. And as we worked together a little bit longer, that worked beautifully. So we started to develop that stuff. So I came in at this particular point, and with the concept of Terror being a character that would within a year or two turn out to be a traitor, but we would do everything to make the readers believe that she was going to be a good person. The attitude with Changeling, the way the characters work, the stuttering in the writing, because she would look like, wow, you're really my friend, and people were positive that she was going to turn and become a good person, because that's the way it had always been done in comics. So we knew before we started it, before we actually had the full story, we knew that she was going to be the bad girl. She was going to stay the bad girl, and she was going to die. And we just made a promise to each other that we would not fall in love with the character, because we were going to write her and draw her to make people fall in love with her. But it had to be consistent from day one. We had to know where we were going, so everything would be planted exactly the way we wanted it planted. And we just made sure, again, that we didn't fall in love and decide at the last minute to take the cowardly way out and redeem her. No, the story would only work is if she was true to her insanity.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would have been a forgotten story.
No, absolutely. And it's one of the best stories ever still in my mind. That's because of that, because you were true to what you wanted to do since day one, and you didn't, even seeing that how much people was loving her, you guys didn't change your minds and say, no, let's make her a good girl because people is loving her. You just said, no, we're sticking to our guns. She's bad.
It had to be that way, again, because if she just redeemed herself, it would be every DC and Marvel villain character who redeemed themselves at the end.
Yeah.
She had to also be amazingly cute. She had to be everything that would get the reader to believe, to be positive that she was going to turn. And we were just resolute in our viewpoint that she never would. We'd make it seem like she was, but she never would, because she was that insane.
That's the only right way to see. She was insane. One question. Why did you decide, or how it was because of Crisis, or it was just because you knew Crisis was coming? Or why did you decide that to have, because I think it was still back in the day, it was a really risky move to make Dick and Wally stop being Robin and Kid Flash at the same time. Not, just extended for some issues, so it was separate, so people, were like, oh my God, what the hell is happening here? Why did you just go like, let's all do it at the same time on the same, boom?
In many ways, it was about Wally, because he always felt that he was being used by Raven once he realized what was going on, and that Raven was actually manipulating him, which people forget. I mean, she was not doing. I was as absolutely clear in the dialogue as I could be, and George certainly in the drawing, but she used him in order to get the Titans together. Yeah. So here he comes in with this big news that he's decided to go back to college, and he's decided to give up being a superhero because it was never anything he totally wanted. He wanted a real life, and he's going to announce this, and they're all happy. And then Dick says, well, I may as well tell you I'm quitting too. And it's like he's forgotten. And it was a character bit for Wally himself. In terms of it, the reason why I wanted to get rid of Wally is I've always felt that power doesn't work in a team.
Mm-hmm.
The attitude that I would have with it, and I've talked about this 100 times, is that the Titans are sitting around Titan's Tower, and they get an emergency signal that Dr. Light is attacking the bank. And the Titans take off, and they get there to the bank, and then the fight starts. No, it doesn't work like that, because the second Wally hears there's a problem,
Mm-hmm.
he's gone. He is so fast that he knocks down Dr. Light in 2 seconds. Dr. Light doesn't even see him coming because he's that fast. And he solves the problem, and a minute or two later, the Titans show up. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And Wally should not be the guy. The scenario should not be that here's Wally and the rest of the Titans sitting around. They get the announcement that they got to rush to the bank and stop Dr. Light, and all the Titans say, "Slow down and come with us." They're together, and everybody says, "That's fine." So we could have that big splash picture of all the heroes entering at exactly the same time. No, Wally would have solved the problem in 2 seconds. That makes him too powerful for a team. That makes the Flash too powerful. If you're using these characters correctly, it makes a super speedster too powerful. So I wanted to remove him from the book, so that all the in a team, every character needs to be essential. And with Wally has that power, none of the other Titans are essential, because he could solve it before they can get out of their chair.
Isn't that the same problem with Superman then?
Yeah.
Superman. You have Superman in any team.
Yeah, I never believed in writing Superman as a team.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember, I used to say I didn't want team-up books when I came to DC, because I had been doing the Marvel 2-in-1 at Marvel. And of course, they gave me a Superman team-up book. It doesn't work. Superman does not need the rest of the team.
Yeah.
In so many ways, if you're playing these characters as realistically as you can. In terms of Dick, get back to the question. So that's Wally.
Yeah. That was a quick aside, because I was thinking, then you have Superman on a team, and then you have Superman and Flash on the same team. So it's like, okay, something doesn't work here. But yes, please go back to Dick.
What does the Atom do? And like that, it's useless. But in the case of Dick Grayson, we had been aging him from the moment that we started the Titans. He was not 10 years old the way he was shown in Batman. He was now 18 and 19 years old. He was intelligent. He was the leader of the group. He was all those things. And at that point, because no one really cared about Robert until we did him in the Titans, the Batman editor wanted to get Robin back into the Batman book. And they wanted to make him young again, because they felt that Robin should be a young character. They asked me about it, and I said, no, I don't want that. We've spent at this particular point 4.5 years changing. Here's what you should do. I don't care about. I could not care less about Robin. Mm-hmm. I care about Dick Grayson. You keep Robin. Come up with a new Robin character. Nobody's ever done that before. Let me keep Dick Grayson and let him become the fulfillment of what we've been leading towards that entire time. He is a character who was, episode by episode, was breaking away from Batman. He was going on his own. Let's finally allow him to do that. Let him become a new character. Meanwhile, you're introducing a new Robin, so all the fans are going to really be interested to see what you do. It's a win-win. Mm-hmm. It's a win for me, because we've been leading to him breaking up with Batman. Now we can have him do it. And it's a win for you, because you're going to get a lot of publicity and a lot of eyes on who becomes the new Robin. No one's ever done that before. No one's ever had the partner become their own person and go off, and then a new kid comes in. So that worked out for both of us. as far as I was concerned. It was the Batman books did better on Titans. Nightwing proved to be an amazing success, and it even boggles me because to me he was still Dick Grayson. But the readers really took to that character, and in many ways he's more popular than he's ever been.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And some of the best stories for me have revolved about when Dick has become Batman, and in those stories, whether I still like him more at Nightwing, understand, but when he's become Batman, many people, including myself, we have thought, you know what, he's a better Batman than Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
because he's had a life, and he's taken the mantle because he has to, okay, but he's still Dick Grayson behind that. So when people ask me, would you like Robin, do you like Batman, do you like him as Robin or Nightwing or Batman, I would say, no, you don't get it. I like Dick Grayson.
Well, I don't know if you saw it, but a couple weeks ago, DC released the Robin 80th anniversary special.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 100-page special. I
Haven't
wrote the lead story in there that reflects totally my attitude on the character. It's how I saw the difference between Batman and Robin. And I never put that into words in the comics before. But I had talked about it a couple of years ago. We were all in New York for the convention, and we had a dinner with the actors from the TV show and all of this, and we were talking about Robin and Dick Grayson and all of that. And Tom King was there, and a whole bunch of other people, and I was there. And they could. Tom was fine, but Dan never understood why Dick Grayson was popular with the fans, and he just kept talking about, I don't get it. I don't know. Does anyone understand why? And I went, I did, very quietly. I know why. And I told them the attitude that I saw, why Robin is different and why he's actually a better hero than Batman. Mm-hmm. And I use that as the impetus of this Robin story I did in the 80th anniversary special. Essentially, Batman spent his entire life hunting down the killer of his parents.
Mm-hmm.
He was obsessed with getting that, but he finally did when he was an adult. On the other hand, Dick Grayson, when his parents were killed at the circus, Batman came in, solved it that day, that got the guys, and brought Dick into his house, made his life better. To Dick Grayson, where Batman was obsessed with finding the killer and become colder and colder as he did, Dick Grayson was protected. Batman saved him. Batman helped him. He never had any of the grief because he was allowed to solve the problem. He was allowed to get past that problem. So Batman's an avenger. Dick Grayson's a protector. He was protected by Batman. He was saved by Batman. He was made better because of Batman. And now he wants to help others in the same exact way. Whereas Batman seeks revenge, and it's not about the victim, it's about stopping the bad guy. So to me, those are the two reasons why, and the fact that Dick is a younger guy who is about helping others because he was helped.
Yes.
That comes absolutely in the characters, but nobody's really played with that all that much. So finally, because I did tell the guys years ago what my view was, I decided to put it into the 8-page story. And
yeah, that's amazing. I haven't read it yet. I need to. I think the guy who has played probably the only guy who's played that really well is Grant with with the.
It's this one.
Yes, people, check that one. I get ECC will publish it really soon. I need to get it. I have it on Comixology, but I don't want to read it on Comixology. I want to wait until. Yes, that's with Claudio Castellini.
Claudio, and he lives in Spain.
Yeah, he lives in Sabadell, here in Barcelona province. So he's actually like 20 minutes away from me. Yes.
I've never met him. We've communicated a lot on email, and he's been wonderful. He did such a good job on that Man and Superman story. He really seemed to love it, and it was reflected in his art, which is so good.
I was going to say that I think that the only guy that probably did, that thing that you say about, helping others because he was helped in terms of Dick was Grant Morrison, in the Batman and the stories. I don't remember the title now of the book, whatever. Batman and Robin, yeah, of course. With with Dick being Batman and Damian being Robin.
Yeah.
And how he turned bit by bit Damian to what he originally was, Talia's son, blah, 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 the Rachel Gould grandson, blah, blah. And then Dick was the guy who, bit by bit, turned him into a decent, I hope, a decent human being.
Every writer's going to come in with a different idea, and I think that's great. I don't see Robin, for me, I don't see Dick Grayson wanting to be Batman.
No, I agree.
He thinks that Batman is a cold avenger.
Yeah.
And that's not necessary, because he can accomplish the same things, but be on the side of people and helping the people rather than avenging the evil. His whole thing has to be about helping, because that's what got him past the death of his parents.
Yeah. And
back to the origin to figure out what that character is about. And that was my view of Robin for as long as I've been doing the Titans.
No, I absolutely agree. That's why I think that he's, again, he doesn't want to be Batman, but I think that what fulfills him, as you say, is helping, and that's what I love about that is that it wasn't about being Batman for him. It was about helping Damian.
Yeah, but
that's the way I try to see it. For me to. Because if not, I could be saying, "What are you doing dressed as Batman?" Because you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, he could help Damian as Nightwing too. The beauty of these comics and the beauty of what we do is that everyone's going to bring in their own ideas and different. It keeps it from being repetitious. It keeps it from, that story again. So it's good that people come up with these ideas, whether or not I like them. If they're true to the character in one fashion or another, I think that's the most important, because it keeps it exciting. You don't know quite where it's going.
Yes.
Back in the 50s, when I was reading a fan, 50s and 60s, you pretty much knew the outcome of every story, even as a kid. So it's nice that these days you can do other things and surprise the readers to some degree.
When you guys started doing Titans, was it in your head at all to try? I don't know how to say this. That to try and make it a Marvel team book in DC Comics, in terms of they having feet of clay, their relationships, etc., or just you just did whatever you wanted to do without even thinking about that at all.
What I always said was Teen Titans was DC's first Marvel comic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We both just came from Marvel, but I really liked the plotting sense of DC when they were at their best. DC was very story driven. I loved the character stuff at Marvel and the action stuff at Marvel. It was like things I had never seen before. Fantastic Four and Spider-Man were two of the most brilliant concepts I had seen. And so my style, because I started at DC when I was growing up and reading comics, there was no Marvel. Marvel it didn't exist at that point. So I like to combine the DC sense of plotting, the fact that the story has a beginning, middle, and end, and continues that way, with the Marvel sense of character and action. So for me, that was what I was doing. I wasn't trying to do a Marvel book, because Marvel rarely had the strongest plots. They had great character stuff, and which led to great action and all of that. But and DC had great plots, whether you like them or not. But DC had great plots, but the character stuff was pretty weak for a long time. So I combined the two because that's what I was interested in. As a fan, I love the DC sense of plotting and I love the Marvel sense of action and character. So
nice. Let me see. Okay, people keeps asking me to ask you questions, so let's go for it. De Todo Un Paco asks, question for Mr. Wolfman. Will you say yes when David tells you to come to a Spanish Comic-Con?
I have said yes in the past.
Yeah.
I've been
to
3 Spanish Comic-Cons and really love it. My wife and I were in Spain, for a convention and just love traveling around and all of that. So yeah, if they could bring me over, I would love to. The only thing is I'm old and decrepit, so I need a first class ticket because I need to stretch, and that becomes far too expensive for any convention to do. So all of you chip in, bring me out.
Yes, if you are asking, guys, first class, you need to help. Next, have you seen Titans? Have you watched Titans, the TV show, the TV series? What do you think about it?
Yeah, you're talking about the live action TV show as opposed to the 2 different TV cartoon shows.
Yes.
I've seen them all, first of all. I really liked the live action show. It took about 2 episodes for me to get into it. I didn't think the first one was that strong, and the second one got a little bit better. By the third one, I thought the show was great.
Mm-hmm.
And for the rest of the season, I really love where they were going on it. I'm not saying the first 2 were bad. I'm saying they had a very specific viewpoint, and it took me 2 episodes to understand what that was. And once I did, and once I could follow what they were doing, I really liked it. I thought the actors were all perfect. The girl who plays Raven is a miracle. She was, I think, 14 when she started that show. And she has the acting chops of, much older and much more successful actors. I think she's going to be phenomenal. She was great as Raven and a really sweet person. I met her and her father at that convention, at the DC convention, DC dinner at the convention in New York. I think that the actor playing Dick is great. Donna, my God, she looks exactly like her. Let me get something popped up on that. Good, something popped up on the screen, so I had to get it away. I like the show very much. I don't necessarily need all the cursing, but I'm from a different generation, and that doesn't seem to be a problem these days in almost any streaming show. So I'm the one who's a little out of touch on that thing.
I don't think it's out of touch. Honestly, to be honest, I kept watching because you told me you have loved the 3rd, 4th episode. Because after I watched the first one, I was like, I am not interested. Even if I love the actors, I love especially the ones they picked for Dick and Raven. I love them because Donna came later. But the cursing and the attitude, I was like, this is not the Titans I love. It's too much cursing, too much. I don't care about cursing, but it was like, it didn't seem to fit. It was the cursing because it's streaming, we can curse, let's put it there. But it's when I see cursing on streaming shows and it fits, I'm like, okay, I curse all the time, so I don't care. But when it seems like we have to curse because it's streaming, that's like, nah, not interested.
It hits me because I'm not used to that in comics or in television. My entire life, the characters, nobody spoke like that. Nobody was allowed to, but in real life, people do it all the time. So it's my background that says that. But by the 3rd one, I was oblivious to that, and I was just going along with the story because it was really interesting.
Yeah. And what do you think about the 2nd season? I gotta be honest, I haven't watched it yet because here we don't have DC Universe. And it comes later. I think it's on Netflix, and there's so many stuff that I haven't watched the 2nd one yet. You like it? You like the second one as much or worse or less, more?
Excuse me?
The second season, what do you think? Would you like it the same way as you did this first one, more, less?
Second season?
Yeah, the second season. What do you think about it?
Actually, I thought it was better. The characters became... George and I were creating a family, and as opposed to a team-up book. You know, the Avengers is a team-up book. The Justice League is a team-up book. They're different characters coming in to solve a problem. Titans, I meant it to be a family book. The only other family comic out there was Fantastic Four. So the first season of the Titans show didn't have that sense, but the second season very much has that. It feels like these are people who like being with each other, even if they completely disagree and fight, because that's exactly the way it is with family. And so I thought the second season was even stronger, and Esther Morales, who plays Deathstroke, was just great in it.
Good. I gotta watch it. Okay, so next question. De Todo Un Paco has made a lot of questions. How much did you enjoy the scripts in the recent event Crisis on Infinite Earths on the CW? Just so you know, people, he wrote one of them.
Yeah, especially love that one.
Yeah, which was the best one. And I'm not saying that because you're here.
Because it's Mark. Mark Guggenheim's responsible for that, and he was great, really great.
I love Mark. He's an amazing writer and an amazing human being.
He's a good person, and the way he helped me with that is just above and beyond. I will not forget it. Really great. I liked it. I knew when I first heard they were even doing it, which was at the end of the season of Flash or something that said next year, Crisis on Infinite Earths, I just stared. No way they can do that. No way they can do that. Because they're using a different set of heroes and a different background and all of that, I knew there was going to be differences. I was amazed that they were able to touch so many of the points that we did and convert them to where their characters were. But every one of the major beats was there and beautifully done. I still don't know how they did it. I cannot even imagine how they got all the actors to sign on to that. I mean, all the cameo appearances, they were getting people all over the place, and it was so amazing to me. And I loved co-writing an episode. Mark did far more of the heavy lifting than I did, but I love doing that, and appearing on the show itself was sort of a shock, and ultimately I really liked it. But boy, it was scary before I did it, because I don't have a very good memory anymore. I used to be able to retain all of Crisis in my head, in advance. I could keep it with a whole year's worth of stories, absolutely. But these days, my short-term memory isn't great. So I don't know how they did it. I liked it. I loved it. But my remember, I didn't write that. Everyone assumed that I wrote it because I'm a writer and I said it, and I had written one of the, co-wrote one of the episodes. But no, those were the lines that the writers of the show wrote, and I wasn't positive. In fact, I was pretty sure that I would not remember them, because I had 3 weeks where they told me that I was going to do this, and every time I practiced the line, I got it wrong. I completely got it wrong. And right to that day, I'm sitting off to the side while they're filming it, and I'm running through the lines, and I'm getting it wrong the entire time, making a mistake where there's a line about the legends, showing up with the legends, and I kept saying the Legion. And finally they call me. It's my turn to go in there, and I do. And for the first and only time, I got it all right, because even afterwards, when we did a couple of pickup things, I would get those wrong, but they got absolutely correct when I needed it. So
Good.
I was thrilled, but boy, I was scared. I figured they brought me up to Canada to do this, because they brought me up to Canada, and I would cost them a fortune having to film this all day long until I got it right. But fortunately, that didn't happen.
It worked. It worked. By the way, guys, we said Mark 4 times. We didn't say who. Mark Guggenheim, showrunner, producer in some of the CW, Arrowverse shows. Because we were saying only Mark, and maybe you didn't know who we're talking about. As I said, amazing writer, amazing comic book writer, amazing TV show, showrunner and creator, and also really, really, really great person. So let's go with the next question. Log Fran asks, how did you decide to kill Flash and Supergirl in Crisis?
How did I decide to kill Supergirl?
Supergirl and Flash.
Yeah, Supergirl and Flash. Flash, I can tell you instantly, was that came from DC. The publisher Jeanette asked that Flash be one of the characters who died. I didn't want to, because I was trying to preserve all the characters from my childhood, in a sense too. I didn't want to take the character who led in the entire Silver Age, but I worked once it was suggested and approved, and I was told that I had to do it. I wanted to make sure it was as well done as I possibly could, and came up with a fairly intricate storyline with the ghost image and all of that sort of stuff to make you care about the Flash before it happened. Supergirl, that was my idea. We knew that Superman was going to be going under a change. My feeling was that if we were rebuilding the character from scratch, at that point we didn't know what was going to happen, but we knew it was going to happen. He should be the only survivor from Krypton. Eventually, someplace down the line, we could reintroduce a Supergirl. But for a while, for a couple of years, for however long it took, Superman should be the sole survivor of Krypton. There shouldn't be a dog. There shouldn't be an entire city of people. There shouldn't be all these other characters. It should just be Superman. Concentrate on making Superman the best superhero you can again. So Supergirl was my idea in order to strengthen Superman, and Flash was DC's idea.
Mm-hmm. So, the Totem Paco says Galaxy Quest is awesome. Mike Perkins, do you know Mike Perkins, the artist?
Yes, and Mike joined George and I for a lunch and had a great time.
That's amazing, because he's saying, I still cherish that breakfast I had with Marv and George discussing games. I was like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, and his work on the book was just wonderful. I would love to work with him separately. But yes, did he have a question?
No, he just said that. He just said, I will cherish that breakfast I had with Marv and George discussing games. I was like a kid in a candy store.
It was, he was great. And he's a great artist.
So, another question is, which character is the one that you enjoy writing the most?
It's the character who works the best in the story, really. I don't have one character I don't necessarily like writing Nightwing more than Raven, or Raven more than Starfire, or any of those things. If I can write the dialogue correctly, that's all I care about. The thing is that it has to tell the story of that character. So there are so many, and they keep changing. I love writing Dracula. I love writing Deathstroke. I love writing Raven. I love, all of those. I love writing Spider-Man when I did that, and Superman's my favorite character in comics. So, I like doing all that stuff.
It's funny because I think that in two particular cases of characters you mentioned, at least for me, Starfire and Raven, nobody, I think, any other writer, artist, sorry, you can get mad at me, this is just my personal opinion. Nobody has really gone to the core of who Starfire, Coriander, and Raven are. I mean,
yeah.
The exterior, the surface, they can touch it, but the core of what they are as human beings, no, so Starfire not a human being, not the right words in this case. As people, I don't think anybody has gone there and understood them as they. This is why I still love to this day to see you coming back, to the Titans and telling just a story of all of them getting together for a day and going to a park, play games, and talk about what their life has been in the last 5 years, to say something.
Yeah, I love writing the Raven miniseries, all of them.
Yeah.
Maybe not the last one as much. I love Night Force. It's one of my absolute favorite creations. Love that book completely. But I was asked to put Night Force in with Raven, and though I think I made it work, and I found the reasons why they could work together, I do think the Night Force needs to be by itself outside of DC continuity. But that said, I was able to figure out the way to make that story work. But on my own, I would never have had the Night Force team up with anybody. They are a horror book outside the DCU.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they are better in their own path, in their own ways, and not mixing with them. It's like, I think it's the same about, Conan now in the Marvel Universe, or as I thought, same thing with, Warlord, involved in DC continuity. Like this, just keep them separate. They have their own thing. They keep them separate.
Yeah, I don't like tying everything together, and because to me, every time you put a box around a concept, it makes it smaller, because you have less and less room to explore. And comics should be about finding great stories, not worrying about what happened 15 years ago.
Yes.
All of Crisis was created to get away from that continuity, because I didn't like the fact that everything was now dependent on what had gone before.
Yeah.
We should be expanding the field of what we could write about, not shrinking it.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, more. Congratulations, Logan. Logfran says, congratulations on the creation of Black Cat. I love that character. Did you create Black Cat thinking that it was a character that it could last long?
That it could last a long time?
Yeah.
No, first of all, Black Cat was created for Spider-Woman. I created it for Spider-Woman, not Spider-Man. If you look at the first issue, this issue of Spider-Man that features the Black Cat for the first time, that in the letter column, I talk about the fact that back then, that I talk about that she was created. I even printed the cover that we had drawn, that Carmine Infantino had drawn. And character from day one, you can tell because I brought her back very quickly. I had no idea that the fans would like her, because she was the very first female villain that Spider-Man fought. So I didn't know if they would like that concept or not, but I liked it, and I thought it was a fun concept that could fit into Spider-Man fairly well. Once I decided to move her over to that book, I like the character. The I mentioned that repeatedly that she was created for Spider-Woman, and one of the ways you know that is Spider-Woman's name. Her secret identity is Jessica Drew. Jessica was named after my daughter Jessica, and Drew after Nancy Drew. Black Cat was created. Her name was Felicia Hardy. Felicia for Felix the cat, Felix, same root, and Hardy for the Hardy Boys. So you had Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys in there. And that's why you could sort of tell that it was created originally to fit in with Jessica Drew. But yeah, good character.
Yeah. Let's see. Pedro de Mercader asks, any stories you would like to share about the making of the Tomb of Dracula?
The question was, do I have stories about working on Tomb of Dracula, creating Tomb of Dracula? Back then, I was still a very new writer, fairly new writer. I wasn't considered a superhero writer at all. And in fact, I never could make the superhero stuff work, even though I was a fan and have been reading superhero comics primarily. But for some reason, I just didn't do a very good job on it. I think Roy Thomas, who asked me to work on it, sort of figured, well, I wrote all these horror stories for DC, House of Mystery, House of Secrets, all of that stuff. And we don't expect Tomb of Dracula to survive not because of it was bad or anything. It was a really good book. But they went through 3 writers in 6 issues. The first 2 were by Jerry Conway. He set up the whole concept. Second 2 were Archie Goodwin, and the third 2 were Gardner Fox. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be coming in. So there'd be 4 writers. How can that actually help the book? When you have 4 writers instead in 8 issues. So they didn't expect it to work, to sell, I'm sure. And Roy just felt that I'd do as good a job as anybody else on the horror stuff because that's my background. What I found was by working on Dracula and looking at Gene Colan's artwork, I really learned my entire craft. I learned how to write, I learned how to plot, I learned how to do everything on Tomb of Dracula. So to me, it's probably the most important book in my entire life of anything I had written, because it taught me how to create characters. Mm-hmm. I could come up with a character, and Gene could make that character look so real. And I then had to adapt my writing to the artwork and make my characters seem real as well. So yeah, I love working on that book, and working with Gene was phenomenal. He and I became friends. I spoke to him just a few days before he passed away, and he was still as upbeat and as friendly and as great as ever.
And a genius, a true genius. Daniel Maine asked, which DC villain was the most interesting for you to explore in a script?
Of one that I created, or
let's go with that. Yeah, let's go with that. This is about you, so yes, of course, one that you created.
Well, I love writing villains. You could tell most of the characters I've created over the years have been villains. Deathstroke, really enjoyed him because he was, to me, a character with so many layers. He was not just somebody who shot people. He had a family. He had an extended family. He had an entire life outside of what he was doing, and villains didn't generally have that. I love writing Deathstroke. Vigilante or Black Cat, or I'm trying to think of some of the others. There are just so many, I can't even think of them. Yeah, I love writing the villains. What about? I don't know if I answered the question, but what?
Please?
Excuse me?
No, I lost you for a second. It's fine. So, okay. Yes, look, Fran just is commenting on what you said before about the Titans. The concept for you of the Titans, was creating a family. He's saying New Teen Titans has been compared to the X-Men many times, but recently Carlos Pacheco commented that for you, the impression that he had on the book is that your starting point, your idea, starting point for Green Titans was the Fantastic Four because you wanted to create another book that it was also a family unit.
Yeah. Yeah, I always made that clear. Everybody kept saying that we were doing DC's X-Men, and aside from the fact that Chris and I just brought back an older book and had some new characters, there's no similarity between them. I was never an X-Men fan. I was a huge Fantastic Four fan, and the Fantastic Four was a family book, and that's what I wanted. To do with the Titans. So I always sort of laughed, so did Chris, that I would be trying to do the X-Men when I was not even interested in the X-Men.
I am trying to remember about the crossover, the New Teen Titans X-Men crossover. I remember back in the day there was a big rumor that I don't know if big, but there was going to be a second part, like a sequel of that one, and that you were going to write it. Is that true?
Yeah. We already had the villains. We already had, it was going to be Brother Blood and the Hellfire Club. And it had all been approved. And then the editor-in-chief at Marvel decided there will no longer be any team-ups. So we never got a chance to do ours.
We need to make that happen. I don't know if you're still interested in doing it, but we need to make that happen. That book needs to happen.
No. At this point, I would not even have the desire to write something like that. As I get older, I want to do the books that I really love at this particular point. So I did the Superman with Man and Superman. I love writing the Raven miniseries and all of those stuff that does not have to tie in with anything else. My own little thing and have fun doing that.
Okay, so let me see. One question, last question, and I'll let you go because it's late already. You did some create your own stuff back in the day that I love, by the way.
Say that again.
You did some create your own stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
Are you among these things that you're saying that you are doing what you like to write right now? Would you like to come back to that, to create your own comics? That is coming back to the characters you did back then, you created back then, like the Man, Cold Axe, etc., or new stuff, or creating new stuff. You create your own comics.
No, I would absolutely love to do my own create your own comics. I have one that I actually wrote a full script on, plus have a 5-year Bible written as what the storylines would be. And I did a first script, but I haven't. First, I'd have to find an artist for it, and then who doesn't mind working semi-free, and then find a publisher for it. It's a science fiction sort of thing, and I really like it. Also, have a horror one that I may have. I think I have an artist for, but I have not been breaking the story down. I haven't been able to get to that yet. But yes, my preference would be to do create our own stuff on my own, and things for DC, like the short stories and everything, because I really love writing. I can do a flat and the Robin story right now. Yes, I would definitely like to do my own stuff.
Okay, I think there are a lot of guys that could be interested in working with you. And about the science fiction one, I think I know who could do it for you. But anyway, that's a separate thing. I'm just rambling here. So, guys, first of all, Logfan says, we want you to know that you have many fans of your work in Spain, and effusive applause from all of them. Pedro de Mercader, thanks to you too. And the other guys, thank you. And I want to thank you for being here. You're an amazing friend. You love it. You know it. And I miss you. I miss Noel. We, Paloma and myself, would love to see you. Just a small note as a goodbye. When we watched the episode, The Crisis on Infinite Earths, where you showed up, we knew it was coming because some asshole on the internet, of course, had spoiled the episode. But we know it was coming. You know, you were going to be there. But I can tell you, the moment we saw you on the screen, Paloma and myself literally jumped, clapped, an ovation for you. Literally was like, oh my God, so many years serving that. And you know how much we love you as a friend. Everybody here in the family. So we just were ecstatic to see you there, my friend. And we're dying to see you back, whether it's here, whether it's in the US, somewhere.
To see you. Love to see you in person at a time when people are allowed to shake hands again.
Yeah, well, if not, we can do the elbow thing, whatever. We're all friends. We are not going to judge. We are not going to be angry at the other because we keep the distance and we do like this or like that. Okay. Thank you so much, Marv. Thank you so much, everybody. You're amazing. Wait 5 seconds because first I will cut here on the streaming and then I will say proper goodbye to you. And I always have to announce our next guest for tomorrow, guys. It will be the amazing, the wonderful, now in Spanish, el maravilloso genio Ramón Bax. Mañana os veré aquí con él. We'll see you tomorrow with him. And you'll see about who else will come in this year. We'll have streamings every day at 5 p.m. Tendremos streamings todos los días a las 5 de la tarde. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So see you. Thank you very, very much for staying there. I will cut the streaming now in like 3